Hey, great to see you for this short video on how to close out tournaments. Now, by closing out tournaments, I don't mean slamming your laptop closed or slamming the door to the tournament room closed because you've bust out. I mean finishing up in the winner's circle. And if we can't win it all, making sure we get into those top 2 or 3 spots where the big paydays are. Now, I've seen a lot of people try and do that. I've commentated on a lot of European Poker Tour events, a lot of WCOOP and Sunday Millions, and there are certain commonalities between people that are very good at doing this and people that don't. Now, the most important thing to realise is just how important this is. We don't run deep in tournaments very often, even if we're an amazing player and have a massive edge, right? Most of the time you're going to bust out before the final stages. So when you do get there, it's massively important that you're doing everything you can to capitalise. There's a huge difference, like many hundreds of % difference, between finishing 12th in most tournaments and between finishing 1st or 2nd in most tournaments. So what makes the difference? What actually does decide how you'll do that? Well, it's not completely in your control, because if you get dealt aces every hand, right, you're probably going to win the tournament. But there are things you can do and things you can focus on to help you get bigger prizes more often when you run deep. First of all is to focus on what brought you there. Process. Focus on your process. What I mean by that is, it's an exciting situation, right? Finally, we've got what we came for. We're deep in a tournament. Very easy to get carried away and do one of 2 things. Either play too tight because you're worried about busting and not winning, or to play too aggressively or too loose because you want to make it happen. You're trying to force it and get that for first place. You can also just get very distracted by looking at pay jumps, which you need to be aware of, but you don't need to keep staring at them, right? I know that you've done it, we all have. Looking at pay jumps and fixating on them and getting distracted by the final table live or online doesn't matter, it can still happen. The key to stopping that is to actually focus on the process of what you're doing. And by process, I mean thinking about each hand and focusing on each hand in turn and asking yourself the question, you know, who's in this hand? What's the action been? What is my hand? What are my options? Can I make a play at this pot? How does my stack to relate to their stack? Do I want to risk going bust to this player because, you know, actually I've got 4 shorter stacks and I shouldn't be trying to risk going bust? All of these questions will keep you in the now, right? The more you can keep thinking about your process of analysing each hand as its own separate problem, the better you'll do towards the end of tournaments, because the more you'll shut out that unhelpful emotion of, oh, we could win everything, which is not what we want to be thinking about when we're making poker decisions. So keep thinking analytically and you'll do well. Number 2 is to adjust. Adjust. You're in a unique situation when you get down to the last 12 players, 10 players, 6 players, last 2. You're going to be playing short-handed for a lot of it. You're going to have some history with a lot of the players you play against because you've come through the tournament. And you're going to have very variable stack sizes, player abilities, probably, and very variable approaches. You're going to see some players get too tight, like we said, some players to get too aggressive, and so on. You have got to be able to be flexible and adjust and play each situation as an independent situation. Don't just be card driven and think, oh, I've got ace queen, this is what I always do with ace queen. Think about stack sizes, think about your options. Ask, is this a pot that I can win even though I don't have a hand? All of these questions that keep you looking to be flexible and adjusting in your approach. For example, there was a World Series quite a few years ago now where TJ Cloutier, I think, finished 3rd. I think it was a Scotty Nguyen year, actually. No, excuse me. I'm thinking of the TJ Cloutier runner-up year, where he came into the final table very short stacked. He hardly played a hand. Everyone bust around him, and he ended up in the heads-up with Chris Jesus Ferguson, who actually won it that year. But TJ gave himself a chance to win the whole thing. He played extremely tight because he adjusted to what was happening at that final table. So you've got to be really flexible in your approach to each situation. And the more short-handed you get, the more flexible you need to be in your approach, because the less you can just play your cards. So you need to be able to adjust. Now, number 3 is stack sizes. The thing you need to adjust to more than anything else is stack sizes. I'm not going to go through ICM in this video because we don't have time. Independent chip model, it's a little bit more detailed. But if you want to get in deep, you want to be successful in tournaments, then go away and Google that and spend some time learning how it works, play with the simulator a little bit. But the headline is that stack sizes matter when you get towards the end of tournaments. And the reason they matter is the further you go, the more valuable your chips are, and the relationship between your stack and your opponent's stacks begins to matter. So one of the big points that you'll take away from thinking about this stuff is that If you can go bust to a bigger chip stack when there are shorter stacks still remaining, let's say there's 6 players, you're in 3rd spot and there's 3 short stacks, right? Going bust in that situation can be a complete disaster because you have expected 3rd place money, right? If everyone stayed more or less in their expected positions. But by going bust, you actually collect 6th place money. So you need to be adjusting to stack sizes. And here's the key takeaway. You have to know the stack sizes, right? You have to know your opponent's stack sizes at all times, but especially when you get deep in tournaments. You need to know your own stack size, your opponent's stack sizes at all times, and you also need to think about how your opponents will view their stack size. If they're an experienced pro, they're going to make the right adjustments as they get shallower or deeper. If they are perhaps someone who's not used to playing out at a level of them, they've got lucky getting deep in the tournament, they may play way too tight. Or they may shove way too often. It's your mission and your job to be super focused on this stuff. Again, by focusing on this stuff, it will take you away from worrying about your situation, get rid of your nerves and your emotion, because you'll actually be focusing on the poker at hand. So when you're not in a hand late in a tournament, I'd really recommend you're going around the table thinking about and asking yourself with your internal monologue, not out external if you're playing live, that gives the game away, about the opponents you're facing, their attitude to their stack size, and how yours compares and interrelates with them. So yeah, that's the stuff to focus on. Now 4 is away from the table and it's a big one. You are going to need to practice. And you're going to especially need to practice short-handed, short and heads up. This is a big, big gap in most tournament players' game. And the reason it's a big gap is that 95% of the time you play tournaments, you don't play short-handed or heads up, right? But the 5% of the time you do is the critical time because that's the end of the tournament and that's when the big money gets decided. So I know you may be uncomfortable with playing short-handed or heads up poker, but that's just because you haven't done it. If you want success in MTTs, you're going to have to finish 1st, 2nd and 3rd a lot of the time when you go deep. And you can only do that by being an effective short-handed and heads-up player. So you need to practice this, right? Go and play some 4max tournaments online. Play some heads-up poker online or live, right? Playing cash games for lower stakes if it makes you more comfortable, but that are short-handed. Get some practice on short-handed and heads-up play, because when it comes to the crunch, if you're more competent at short-handed play or heads-up play than your opponents, you've got a big edge, and that's where all the money is. This is a massive difference maker for most tournament players because they don't do it enough. All right, some tips for you to take away and make yourself more effective at the end of tournaments. If you keep thinking and keep clear thinking and flexible thinking at the end of tournaments and don't worry about winning it all, who knows, you may end up winning it all. I really hope that that helps and it's given you value. If you'd like more poker tips and information like this, then subscribe to this YouTube channel here on screen or under the video. Leave me a comment so I know if you liked it and also what else you'd like some information on. And if you would like to get serious and take it to the next level, then head over to our website. It's transformmypoker.com, transformmypoker.com, and you can enter your email and sign up for a free advanced series of poker coaching. It's completely free and it will really get you to the next level and get you that consistency and improvement that you're looking for. All right, hope you've enjoyed it. I'll talk to you in another one of these next time you press the play button.